Okay, working on the multiple activity lesson. First, let's create a new project. And I'll call mine multi-act. Now I'll make sure to hit the version 2.2 of the SDK in both places. Okay, hit next. Sometimes it gets a little hard for me to figure out which activity I'm working on when I give them all the same picture. So I'm going to pick a different icon and color to make it easy to pick out. Blank activity. And all of this stays the same. Hit finish. Alright, now I'm on the layout file, and I'm supposed to have a button and a text view. So I already have, well actually let me get rid of this text view, and let me drag a new button and a new text view onto my screen. Okay? And I'm going to set the text on my text view to be @string/hello. This isn't in the lesson. Well, it's kind of in the lesson. So, and then of course, since I'm creating a string, I got to go to the strings.xml file and hit string hello and have it say hello world. Okay, make sure that's saved. Now that I have everything here, I got to make sure I save it before I go to the next screen, like so. So hit save, and now I want to go to my .java file for my main activity, and this is what it starts out as, and it's asking me to edit it to add a blank on-click listener. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the bottom, right before the last curly bracket, and I'm going to type in private on-click listener, go to second listener equals new on-click listener, open close parentheses, open close curly brackets, semicolon. Now, all of this is case sensitive, so you got to make sure that you type it, upper and lower case in the proper way. My first one, I'm going to get rid of this error by importing on-click listener, adding it to my imports, and this one will ask me to add unimplemented methods. And right now I have something that will run, but it really doesn't do all that much. And you're going to tell me that the directions next tell you to create the on-click routine, which is what we just did. And now we're going to create our second class. Okay? So to do that, you want to come to the Project Explorer, right-click on your package name, which is right here for me, and then I'm going to right-click and say New Class. Now, another way to do this would be to add a new activity, which would actually save us a step later on, but let's go with this. So I'm going to name it Second Screen. And it's of type android.app.activity. And remember, case matters. And then I'm going to click Finish. So it adds this new activity for me. And I have to edit it so that it has this, like the onCreate that we normally see. So let me go ahead and hit @override public void on create bundle capital B saved instance state. Now bundle of course needs an import, and then super on create saved instance state. Save. Now, before I go any farther, I need to make sure that I have an XML file for this second screen. So I would go to my res folder. And in fact, let me save my main activity file as well before I go forward. So I go to my activity folder, go into my layout file, hit new, file, and I'm going to enter an activity, a XML file called second.xml. Now right now my XML file has absolutely nothing in it because that's the default for something like this. So let me go ahead and grab a linear layout. So that's there. And a text view and a button. So we'll grab a text view and a button. And my button will say go to first screen, and my text will say second screen. The text is to tell you where you are now, the button is to send you back to the other screen. Okay. And then we're going to edit the second screen to match the web page. So we need to declare our button, tie it to an on-click listener, and create the on-click listener. So button equals cast as button, find view by ID, r.id.button1. I need to add the import for that. And I really don't like naming my variables the same thing as their classes, just with different punctuation, because I get confused. So I'm going to name mine my button instead. So my button, and I actually did it all in one line, but in the lesson it looks more like this. And then of course I'm going to set the on-click listener, but let me go create the on-click listener first. So on-click listener, go to first listener equals new on-click listener, open close parens, open close curly brackets, semicolon. So I need to import my on-click listener, and I need to add my unimplemented methods. And now we're here. So it says our second activity is almost complete, and it needs a command to make a button send you back to the main screen. So we're going to add our own method down at the bottom. I'm going to save it, just so I don't lose what I've done so far. I'm going to add my own command down at the bottom, private void do button. This is a method, and it's going to go start activity Remember, an activity is a screen, so by telling it this, I'm telling it to start a different activity. New intent, this, comma. Oh, I'm sorry, I was supposed to do this on my main activity. So on your main activity, you're going to have a new method called doButton. Start activity, new intent, this, comma, second screen dot class, or whatever you named the activity for the second screen. Intent needs to be imported. Now that I have this button, I actually need to execute it. So I need to put something in the onClick handler that will tell it, do the command that will send us to the next screen. So it needs to look like this. Okay, this is our main activity now. So oh, we're missing something that's not in the lesson. I'll need to fix that. We also need to declare a button on this page too. And set the onClick listener for it. So that's the main activity setup, and so the second screen we need to set that up as well. So we need a command here. Oh, okay, before I do that, the next thing we were supposed to do was edit the XML to declare the fact that our second activity exists. So right now what we have is code that should send us to the second screen once we run it, but it won't because the program doesn't know that the second screen exists. So we need to tell it that the second screen exists. So you need to go to the Android manifest, go to the XML tab of the Android manifest, and in this line right before application, right before the close application line, we're going to declare a new activity with the Android name of second screen, which is what I called mine. If you name yours something different, you should use that. And then save it. So what I have right here should work, at least in one direction. So let's take a look. We'll execute it, switch to the emulator. While that's loading, let's go on to the next thing that we were supposed to do. But what will happen is it will run in one direction. It will allow you to click the button to go to the second screen, but if you click the button on the second screen, nothing will happen to bring you back. And the reason is we never declared that this onClick listener was the onClick listener for this button, and we never actually gave it anything to do inside the onClick listener. So the next part of the lesson was taking care of that. We have to, in this one, we're going to create a command called do back to first. So private void do back to first. This is our own little method, and it's going to be, again, start activity, new, intent, this, main activity, dot class. For me, because that's what my other one is named, for you, you would use whatever you named your first screen. Import intent. All right, so I have the command to go there, but I have to tell the onClick handler to do it, so that when someone when the onClick handler is called, it will execute the do back to first command. And so now I have the command, I have the onClick handler set to run the command, but I have to tell the button that the onClick handler is what handles its clicks. So set onClick listener, go to first listener. Okay, so that's my program complete. Let's see what happened with the previous one. Okay, see that one goes to the second screen, but on the second screen nothing happens. Now, notice that the second screen was blank, and I'm going to tell you why. On the second screen, we add the super.onCreate, which saves what was there before, but we never told it what its screen layout was going to look like. That's what this line is. Set content view r.layout.whatever. That tells it what layout file to use to show. So we want to add a line that looks like that. Set content view r.layout.second. Save it, run it, go take a look at our emulator. It should reload the program. When I hit the button, it goes to the second screen. When I hit on the second screen, it goes back to the first. This ends the multi-activity walkthrough.